welcome to church. We're so glad that you're here. It may seem a little awkward. A friend of mine today said you can't love someone you don't know, but I do love you, each and every one of you, even if you never met. Thank you so much for being here. We love you. I am in my linen outfit tonight because I want to feel like I just traveled to Italy because there is no traveling. Someone just showed me a video of a friend driving his bicycle in the terminals of LAX, and it is a ghost town. Absolutely no one there. In our lifetime, if someone would have told you that, we would have never believed. But here we are. I don't know at all. I hear these people quoting like how many days we've been in quarantine, and I'm like, how do you count? I can't remember what day it is, except that I do know that it's Wednesday because we're here. But our prayers, our thoughts, thinking about each and every one of you. Love you, church home. If there's anything we can do for you, I know Chelsea already said, please jump on Pastor Chat at the Church Home app. We have people actually right now, almost 24 hours a day, waiting to pray with you and talk with you, help you in any way we can. And we're not going to go a minute longer without saying thank you to every single frontline worker right now. Under the sound of my voice, it is impossible from the depth of my soul to thank you enough for putting yourself continually and constantly in harm's way so the rest of us can be safe and you can protect human life, preserve human life. We love you. We thank you. Thinking about grocery store clerks, I've read some articles, I'm sure you have, so many who are testing positive for COVID-19 because they're putting themselves in harm's way and being there so that we can get groceries and continue to have food on our table. So thank you again to each and every one of you. We love you. We have so many frontline workers that are part of our community in our church. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I want to speak a sermon tonight called That's My Cross. That's my cross. And here's what I'm hoping for. In the next few minutes, as we conclude, I am hoping that you will feel relief. I'm hoping that you will feel rest. I'm hoping that you will feel confidence. And I'm hoping that you will feel ease. I'm hoping that you may feel challenged. You may feel like, whoa, I've never known that before. Or, I need to rethink that. And all that is wonderful. But I really believe Jesus says, and I quote, my yoke is easy, my burden is light. And I'm hoping for that light and easy sense of Jesus for your life, for your family, and wherever you are in the world. We're going to read one of the famous passages in all of the Bible, one of the great statements Jesus ever said in Luke chapter 9. So we're going to go to Luke chapter 9 and begin reading in verse 23. Again, the title of this talk, this message, this sermon is That's My Cross. Jesus says this, if anyone would come after me, if anyone would desire to follow me, he must deny himself, take up his cross daily, verse 23, and follow me. For Jesus says this, one of the great statements about life that anyone has ever said. Jesus says, for what does it profit a man or a woman if he or she gains all that the world has to offer in regards to stuff and things and renown, but in the process loses or forfeits themselves? You get everything you've ever wanted in terms of curating stuff and possessions, but in the process, you forfeit yourself or you lose yourself. On Sunday, we talked about what you do when you feel like you're losing. I want to pick up a little bit on that felt need, a little bit on what we're probably all experiencing to certain levels and dimensions of feeling like, hey, I'm home, I'm quarantined, and am I doing enough for myself, for my loved ones, for my growth, for my benefit, for my career, my success? Certainly, if you've spent any time in the ecosystem called social media, no doubt you see these overachievers like I do who are posting every day and Instagramming live every day. I did that for a while, then I got tired. But then they're just like driven, type A, incredibly successful, and they're teaching themselves the piano. They're learning new languages. They're remodeling their homes. They're re-landscaping. And Chelsea and I, newsflash, we're trying to ensure that we stay married and don't eat our children. So that's kind of where our priorities are at this point. But I want to talk to you about that's my cross, and we'll relate it, of course, to this feeling that sometimes we feel like we're getting behind or we're losing ground in the middle of this quarantine. You can join me in prayer if you feel comfortable. God, thank you for the moments that we share. I pray that you would speak to us and encounter us and experience us. Thank you for the minutes and moments we share as a community. It really is incredible, God, right now in this moment, that you can use wires and technology and lenses and cameras, and you actually can connect us. You can connect us. Connect now our heart, our soul, our minds. Help us to even feel the sense that we are connected and in this together as a church. Thank you for what you're doing at Church Home. God, we pray for further expansion and growth of church at home all over the world, and we thank you for it. Bring the Sonics back in Jesus' name. Amen, amen, amen. I want to thank Cheryl Haskins. Ed Haskins is about to give me a supersonic mask. It's not like a mask that's supersonic powers, the Seattle Supersonics mask that I am now going to be wearing. Did you know that? No? And Cheryl Haskins did not make you one. Cheryl's a part of our church, by the way. And I'm pretty excited about my Supersonics mask. Well, I don't want to get into it, and this is not in my sermon, but last night at dinner with our family, I think I almost fought the kids about Michael Jordan. They started saying last dance is last dance. I should say last chance. Last dance is kind of, I won't say which one of my kids said it's kind of boring. And a little part of me died when my son said that. So we have been busy curating all the statistical proof that Michael Jordan is unequivocally the better athlete. But for all those watching Last Chance, oh, that's right, that would be everyone because it's the only sporting event we have. But anyways, it's been exciting. One of the reasons I like The Last Dance is because I can eat while we watch The Last Dance. And The Last Dance comes on at 7 p.m., I believe, on ESPN. But I don't start eating every day until 3 p.m. That's my quarantine thing. Okay, Chelsea hates it, but she certainly doesn't hate this fit body, let me tell you. I say like saying that, I'm kidding. Some of you are in your homes with your kids, and you're like, come on, dads, what's he talking about? But that's been my thing, right? Like, I don't work out, right? We're quarantined with the Waters. Elijah Waters, who's on staff. Elijah's running like 112 miles a day. He's doing 10,000 push-ups a day. Elijah, we get it, okay? I don't want to do that. Why if I don't have to do that, why would I do it, right? So what I've decided is I'm just not going to eat till 3 p.m., right? I'm going to do what we call intermittent fasting. You ever intermittent fasted? I've done some study on it. That's not really true. I've had conversations about it, and that's what I call study. I've studied it. That's when I say I study, by the way, to Church Home, it typically means Chelsea read some books and we went on a walk and talked about it. But the point is, intermittent fasting has kind of been proven to work. And I got to be honest with you, I'm going to shoot straight. Intermittent fasting for the first several weeks of quarantine was almost like a magic wand. It literally, I would eat whatever I wanted. 3 p.m. to 11 p.m., I was just eating whatever I wanted. I got these keto ice cream bars, and I'm not even keto. I don't know. I've got Halo ice cream pints. I've got Smart Sweets, gummy bears, peach rings, Starburst chews that are Smart Sweets. Right, I got my whole thing planned. Zevia sodas, all this. And honestly, it was working perfectly. I actually thought I was getting ahead. I kind of thought I was cheating the system. And again, I didn't eat today till about 3:30, just, being honest. But every morning I've been waking up. And listen, this is not important. In light of everything that's going on in the world, I recognize this is not important. But maybe because it's not important, that's kind of why it's important. Do you know what I mean? Like, are you at a place where it's like, I want to talk about non-important things. I think that's just kind of enjoyable. So I've been really focusing on my intermittent fasting. So I've been checking, kind of the state of the union. The state of my body every morning, kind of looking in the mirror like, hey, how's it going? Like, wow, I worked. I had 5 bags of Smart Sweets last night while Chelsea was asleep. I don't even barely see it, except the last couple of weeks. All of a sudden, I'm like, I think my body is confused. And someone warned me. I keep looking at Chelsea. Someone warned me recently. This is true. My friend Chris. He said, you gotta be careful with intermittent fasting. He said, if you're not careful, your body will go into starvation mode. And when that happens, your body will start storing everything you do eat. Ladies and gentlemen, it's happening, okay? It's not working. I don't know what to do because I've gotten into a pattern and I like it. For instance, as soon as we are done live church here, I have plans to eat through quite a bit of stuff. That's just kind of where I'm at. But suddenly now I'm like, I'm not doing well. And now I'm kind of stressed out about it. You ever done that? You're like, this is working so good. This is so enjoyable. And now I'm like, wait, should I start eating in the morning? But then I'm going to want to eat at night too. So I'm going to eat both times and I'm not going to run any miles like Elijah and I'm not going to work out. So then I'm like, and suddenly you feel like this isn't working out. Jesus talks about this sensation that the human condition will produce and all of us probably will experience. And it's this sensation that Jesus describes in this passage we just read. He says, what does it profit a man or a woman or a human being to gain all the accolades, gain all the stuff, gain all the possessions, but in the process lose? How do you win everything, all the awards the world has to offer, but still lose? How do you do, go, be, awesome, and yet Jesus warns that you can still lose. You can win in social media, you can win in your career, you can win in your body, you can win in your looks, you can win in your friends, you can win in all these things, and yet Jesus warns against winning but still losing. And for me, obviously, intermittent fasting is a hilarious example and obviously insufficient, non-important, and somewhat silly and dumb, but nonetheless, an example of you feel like you're winning, and then suddenly it shifts, and now you're like, I'm losing ground by not eating till 3 p.m. I got really sick today, too. I was so nauseous. I was thinking to myself, I must eat, but then I'm like, what I'm going to eat tonight does not allow me to eat now. Chelsea's so annoyed. Babe, we're helping people. I need you to focus, okay? I need you to help me. Jesus says, what does it profit a man to gain the whole world, but in the process lose his own soul? Here's what we're all going to deal with in our lifetime. If you haven't already, and quarantine, I think, accentuates the whole situation. You do a lot. You try a lot. You work a lot. And yet you still feel like you're losing. It's your insides that are unsettled, not at ease, comparing, competing, restless, anxious, worried, fearful. Chelsea will tell you last night, for no particular reason at all, I was really tired at like 9:30 or 10. I was up till almost 2. I thought about writing a sermon, but I didn't. I just sat there, tried to watch a show, tried to rewatch The Last Dance, for instance, but I just felt restless. And it's happened to me a few times during this quarantine, restless for no reason. Doing. Like yourself, I'm filling my days with things to do. There's still so much that I can do as a pastor and a communicator and a teacher and a leader through technology and Zoom and all these things, and yet even fighting within myself, doing, being, having, and yet still fighting off real emotions of hopelessness, emptiness, frustration that seems to be unconnected other than maybe just the plight of humanity. How emotional has this been? My little baby girl, she's not a baby anymore, my little 11-year-old came up to me and she was just in tears, and you could tell her 11-year-old psychology and brain couldn't figure out, it was unconnected. It was just, I'm emotional and I feel like crying. Maybe you've experienced this. How do we find progress in this? Because, of course, the world that we live in tells us that you're feeling restless, you're feeling anxious, you're feeling fear, you're feeling hollow, you're feeling empty, you're feeling weak, because you need to do more. Have you run into these incredible people online and all this fodder that is telling us, we talked about it last week, it's telling us, hey, the quarantine is a chance for you to learn the language you've always wanted to learn. And I'm like, who are these people teaching themselves other languages? Hey, teach yourself the piano. I'm like, actually, I'm going to teach myself how to not eat till 3. I'm blown away by these extraordinary people who have found a capacity within themselves during a global pandemic to like learn a new trade or learn a new language. Just newsflash, Chelsea and I are trying to learn how to stay married in a pandemic, learn how to parent in a pandemic, and learn how to pastor in a pandemic. And then we're learning how to watch a lot of movies. So that's kind of what we're doing right now in the pandemic. And yet in the midst of all of our doing and trying and attempting, I watched someone on social media telling me all the investments I can make right now in real estate and why this is going to be critical. And you could double or triple your net worth. And I'm thinking, what's net worth again? You know, I'm just like, this is just restless in my soul. How do you address that? Again, Jesus warned that there would be days. He says, what does it profit a man to gain? An extreme example, nonetheless. What does it profit a man? You gain everything, but you lose your soul. Well, you can still gain some things and still lose pieces of your soul. Do you feel restless? Do you feel like you're not doing enough? Are you like me? Does your legs start to shake when you, for whatever reason, you can't be present? You can't be at ease? Last night I was sitting on a couch and talking to my 13-year-old Elliot, and I had been looking on Redfin, the app Redfin, and I'm always looking at real estate. Chelsea will tell you that. It's literally my hobby. Other than golf, it's looking on the Redfin app. Real estate. I'm looking at prices and homes and styles and designs, and that's just, when I'm tired, that's what I do. And I've been looking on Redfin. My son came over and started talking to me. And we started talking, and it hadn't occurred to me, but we were talking about Scottie Pippen, we're talking about Horace Grant, we're talking about Last Dance, and I'm running him through all that. And my mind just kept telling me, like, let's go back to Redfin. 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 And I remember having this combo, and we're laughing, and I just love my son, and I keep thinking, like, all right, maybe I can go back to Redfin now. And it occurred to me, like, this is life. Like, you're looking at homes, right, and visualizing your family in the home. And your family's right here. And you can connect with them, and you can talk with them. And that's not always the case for me, but during this quarantine, it seems to be accentuated. It seems to be aggravated, easily distracted, easily unsettled, easily anxious. And yet, internally, I feel like I'm doing more. I wonder if you feel the same way. Where do we find progress? Where do we find traction? How do we fix this? How do we change this? Could it be possible in the next 10 minutes for you to begin down the direction of contentment, peace, fullness, security, confidence? What if we came out of this lull, this valley, this pandemic? We came out, maybe not knowing another language, maybe not tripling our net worth, but we came out of this pandemic at peace, at ease, maybe in the midst of tragedy and loss and grief. What if we came through and that's what we curated during this? Maybe we've lost our job, but maybe we could gain contentment, peace, security, and confidence. My brothers and sisters, there is a way. And I want to show you that way in the next few moments. Jesus, right before he makes that statement, what does it profit to do, get, but in the end, you feel hollow and empty and anxious and worried, insecure, not yourself, and you have forfeited real life for stuff and things and possessions and renown. His answer, of course, to this problem that will touch us all is in verse 23. He says, follow me. Follow me and do three things. Deny yourself, take up your cross, and there it is again. Twice he says it, follow me. And then says, for without this lifestyle, you will be so prone, exposed, and susceptible to trying to do, get, have, and you may very well at the end be empty. So boy, if we could just press pause, it's like, well, Judah, pause has been pressed on the world. So if we could just settle ourselves right now in this moment and say, boy, it's one thing to say that at the end of your life, which Jesus seems to be alluding to, kind of the end of your life, you're empty, you're hollow, you're not yourself, and you look back at all you acquired, and yet you're lean and empty in your soul. What if we could learn that right now in the middle of this? How to avoid that, how to go around that, how to see the signs and symptoms and move past that. Well, it's right here. Here's the way. Jesus is the way. He said, simple. You want to roll with me? Deny yourself, take up your cross, and go in my direction. That's what we're going to do. Now, for those of you familiar with this incredibly famous passage, thank you, Esther, for joining me. There's probably not a single preacher alive today that hadn't spent some time in a sermon somewhere on this passage, right? You hear preachers like me say, deny yourself. Those of you that are Jesus followers and Jesus worshipers, you know what I'm talking about. You've heard this scripture. In fact, for many of you, you already knew the address. Oh, that's Luke chapter 9. Yeah, I know that one. Follow me, deny yourself, take up your cross. Growing up, my dad was the pastor of this very church, and boy, the times I would hear him, pick up your cross, follow Jesus. Isn't it amazing? Upon reading it at first glance, right, at first kind of understanding or absorbing of this passage, you go, wow, okay, so this is sounds like a lot of work. Deny yourself, carry your cross, follow Jesus. Right? So if I told you right now, hey, the antidote, the answer for that restless, anxious, empty, hollow feeling you're getting even in the midst of trying to do, get, have. Hey, the answer is deny yourself, take up your cross and follow Jesus. Well, what would you do? You'd probably go, all right, deny yourself is, I don't need that. Take up your cross is like, dying to yourself as well, and then we're going to follow Jesus. And here's how it translates, and here's how it's been translating. It translates like a lot of work, like a lot of self-effort, like a lot of you making it happen. And I am here to announce some really good news. That is not what Jesus is saying. It's not what he's saying. If anyone wants to roll with me, deny himself, take up his cross, and follow me. If this was to promote self-effort, if this was to promote your discipline, your diligence, your morals, your disciplined days, if that's what it was promoting, then my question would be, why just a few verses before did Jesus say to the same disciples? He's talking to his disciples now. Remember, they had 5,000 men listening to Jesus, which is probably double that, counting women and children. And remember, they're hungry. It's getting to the evening, and Jesus is in a predicament. And he says to the guys, what do we got to feed them? And they said, Jesus, we got to send them away, send them to the marketplace because we got no food. He goes, you give them something to eat. They're like, give them something to eat. We just got a handful of loaves and a couple of fish. We don't have anything. He goes, tell them to sit down. The guys are like, well, tell them to sit down. They need to get up and walk. Tell them to sit down. They sit down. Jesus takes the little lunch, prays over it, and it supernaturally multiplies in front of the face of these 12 guys. They watch this bread and this fish, which was like a handful, feed thousands of people. In other words, Jesus is the source. It's in him. He's the supply. He's the surplus. He's the answer. He's the one that can get you the groceries. He's the one that can get you the food, right? So then why, just a few verses later, would Jesus say, well, if you want to roll with me, you got to deny yourself, pick up your cross, and follow me. This is not a promotion of you and me. This is not Jesus turning now the attention to say, you got to work harder, you got to try more, you got to do better, you got to teach yourself the piano and learn multiple languages, and you got to stop eating this and stop going there and stop thinking this, and this is what you got to do. But that seems to be at first glance what we think is being said here, and oftentimes it's preached that way. But this phrase, deny yourself, is steeped in Old Testament history. Deny yourself 2 or 3 times is mentioned in Leviticus. 1 time at least it's mentioned in Numbers. Other times I believe it's mentioned in, it could be Exodus. But deny yourself was an Old Testament teaching under the Mosaic covenant, which taught the children of Israel, the nation God built, deny yourself was synonymous with rest. To deny yourself was to lay down self-effort, self-help, self-righteousness, and trust God on the Sabbath. Now, the Sabbath was instituted by God, the one who created the nation of Israel, which still exists today. He told them you're going to have a Sabbath. Now, the Sabbath was under the Mosaic covenant. We have the Noahic covenant, we have the Abrahamic covenant, and we have the Mosaic covenant. All those covenants, by the way, those terms of engagement, those rules of living were all fulfilled by Jesus. So the Sabbath was fulfilled by Jesus, but back in the Mosaic covenant, the word deny yourself was used to express the sanctity of the Sabbath. You are to keep the Sabbath. Deny yourself. Do nothing in yourself. Trust God to do it all. That was deny yourself. So when Jesus says to his 12 Jewish disciples, if you want to roll with me, deny yourself, they all heard Sabbath talk. They all heard rest. That's what they would have heard. Now, we don't hear that. We hear self-denial. They would have heard Jesus say, if you want to roll with me, rest from your own efforts and self-help and self-righteousness. And then take up your cross and go my direction. Isn't it interesting? Christianity is not a religion of self-denial. Boy, I wish I could shout that from the steeple of every church in this country and around the world. Christianity is not a religion of self-denial. It is a relationship of resting in the work of Jesus. Just digest that for a moment. I'm going to say it again. Christianity is not a religion of self-denial. It is no religion at all. It is not a list of rules that lead you to self-denial. It is a relationship with a person, and the way you relate with him is by letting go of all of your efforts to make yourself good enough and right enough and God enough, and let go, rest, trust, and receive the relationship that is given to us with God through Jesus. Is that not incredible? You want to roll with me? What does it profit a man to gain the whole world, but in the process lose his own soul? Here's how we avoid that problem. Here's how we avoid the human condition, the human nature to experience that. It starts with letting go of self-righteousness. Thinking to ourselves, I'm right with God because of what I've done. No man or woman can be right with God based on what you do. You can only be right with God based on what Jesus has done. Denying yourself is not intermittent fasting. Denying yourself is trusting the one who did for you what you could not do for yourself. That's what it is. And we'll talk more about that in a moment as we are coming to a close. The last thing Jesus says is, follow me. I want to make that clear. What he's saying is, I want you to surrender to my direction. I want you to surrender to my pathway, my direction. I literally want you to step right behind where I step. In other words, you're not going to be the director. I'm going to be the director. You are not going to determine the pathway. I'm going to determine the pathway. My brothers and sisters, following Jesus is like going to Disneyland with my mom. And if you go to Disneyland with my mom, you don't go where you want to go. You go where she wants to go with her grandkids who want to go with her. And my Disneyland is the most mindless thing I do in the world. I go to Disneyland and I literally just follow the little group led by my mom everywhere. I don't go on rides much anymore. I just follow my mom, right? And that's a teaching of Jesus. Just follow me. Go where I go, live how I live, value what I value, say what I say, see what I see, feel what I feel, think what I feel, think what I feel, think what I think, go my direction. And here's where I end. Jesus, in the middle of that, he says, deny yourself, And he says, go my direction. Here's the antidote to doing, getting, having, and feeling empty, hollow, restless, and generally frustrated. Here's the antidote. He says, take up your cross. Take up your cross. Jesus hasn't gone to the cross yet. So he says to the 12 guys, take up your cross. They were familiar with the famous Roman form of execution. Rome was famous for it. By that time, they would have crucified hundreds of people, if not thousands. Jesus says, take up your cross. And they're all like, okay, that's a torture tool. That's a crucifixion thing, right? This was, again, before Jesus had been to the cross. But if you look at verse 21, right before this teaching, guess what Jesus says to his guys? He says, the Son of Man must suffer many things and be rejected by the elders, chief priests, and scribes, rejected by his own people, the Jewish people. He will be killed, but on the third day, he will rise again. Right before he tells them to take up their cross, he says, I'm going to go to a cross. I'm going to go to a cross. I'm going to go to a cross. And then he says, now, if you want to be with me and follow me, if you want to transcend the normal human condition, which is just curating things with a hollow soul, take up your cross. But his reference to your cross is actually a reference to his cross. His cross. I love how the Passion Translation says. It literally says, embrace my cross as your own. Jesus says, if you want to come after me, I want you to let go of self-effort, self-righteousness, and the things you think you do that make you good or right with me. Lay them down. They've accomplished nothing. Let go. And I want you to embrace my cross as your cross. I want you to embrace my cross as your cross. That's my cross. Take up your cross. What's a cross? Anybody got a cross? We got a cross. My dad used to talk about when I was young, we traveled all over America, and he'd be teaching young people, and he'd be like, what's a cross? Take up your cross. How do you do, you know? And I met this incredible man who actually carried a wooden cross on his shoulder around the world. Maybe you've heard of him. Incredible. So we think sometimes it's a physical cross. What is the actual cross? It's the cross of Jesus. Can you see how this passage is coming together? He says, I want you to let go of the efforts you've done that you think make you better than others and right with me, because they don't. Let them go and embrace my cross as your own. Embrace my act as your own. Embrace my finished work as your own. I did it for you. Look at what Galatians says. Galatians in chapter 2. I'll read it to you. Galatians in chapter 2, not Thessalonians. I'm going to find it here in one moment. Galatians is in front of Ephesians, by the way. I always forget that. Galatians chapter 2. Check it out. I've been crucified with Christ, Paul says. You were? Paul wasn't even there. Paul wasn't even on the hill of the skull. He wasn't there when Jesus hung between two criminals. He didn't believe in Jesus. He hated Jesus. He says, I've been crucified with Christ. It is no longer I who live, but Christ who lives in me. In the life I now live in the flesh, I live by faith in the Son of God who loved me and gave himself for me. Please hear this, church. I do not nullify the work of Jesus or the grace of God. I do not nullify what Jesus did for me on the cross. For if a right relationship with God came through rules or law, then Jesus died for no purpose at all. But there were rules God is so holy. God is so perfect. We are so not. There were rules to try to bring us into connection and engagement, and yet we could never keep them. So Jesus came to fulfill all the rules once and for all, to satisfy the holy, perfect character of God. And by doing so, now you and I can have a right relationship with God. How? By embracing the cross of Jesus as our own. That's my cross. That's my cross. That's my cross. Next time shame, condemnation, fear, worry, and anxiety, I literally want you to open up your mouth. For those who worship Jesus and follow Jesus and have received the free gift of Jesus, I'm encouraging you this week to open up your mouth and literally say, that's my cross. Hey, shame, that's my cross. Hey, guilt, that's my cross. Hey, lying, that's my cross. Hey, cheating, you are not going to define me that's my cross. Pain, that's my cross. That's my cross. The fear of the unknown. Are you like me, wondering, maybe the scariest part now of the whole pandemic is when it's over? I was on a Zoom call today with a friend, and she said, I'm actually getting anxious about this being over. I've kind of gotten into a rhythm. It's nice being home. Now what's going to happen when it gets over? A friend of mine was just talking about all the brain health and the mental health and all of these things and how it's wreaking havoc on the human plight and the human condition in our brain and our souls. And now when the world, quote unquote, opens up again, are we going to be not able, not even have the capacity and capability to function again in a world that's similar to what was? That's my cross. Point is, I embrace the cross of Jesus as my own. As my own. Something incredible happens right after this passage. In fact, it happens 8 days later. It's the next portion of scripture in Luke chapter 9. 8 days later, it's called the transfiguration. And I'll be very brief with the story, but the story goes, Jesus gets Peter, James, and John, and he says, I want to go up on a mountain and I want us to pray together. They had no idea what they were in for. They were in for a wild ride. They get to the top of this mountain. Imagine hiking with Jesus. That would be amazing. My wife loves hiking. Hiking with Jesus. They get to the top of the mountain. He starts to pray. And when he prayed intense. And they're probably watching him and they're trying to pray. And they fell asleep, which is very typical of those guys, by the way. They fell asleep while Jesus is still praying. When they woke up to his eyes, his face, his countenance, his body. It's shining like lightning was shooting out of his body. His face was transfigured. His clothes was shining bright white. And two guys came from the fourth dimension and started to have a conversation with Jesus. Do you know who those two guys were? A guy by the name of Moses and a guy by the name of Elijah. Those are two very famous Jewish men. Both of them represent Moses, a whole part of history in the Old Testament. Moses represents all the rules, for God gave him the 10 commandments. God gave him the 10 rules. Elijah represents all the prophets, all the predictions. If you will, Moses represents the principles and the rules. Elijah represents all the predictions and preparations. And they're talking to Jesus, who is going to be the fulfiller of all the predictions, all the preparations, all the principles, and all the rules. And the Bible actually says, while Peter, James, and John are looking, that Jesus, with two dead Jewish men who've come back from the fourth dimension, they've come from eternity, they're talking with Jesus, and their conversation was about how Jesus was going to finally fulfill all the law and all the prophets. And in that moment, Peter does what we still do today. Same guy. Peter has just been told by Jesus, hey, if you want to not curate a bunch of stuff and things and be empty on the inside, follow me. Deny yourself. Take up your cross and follow me. Peter, in that moment, he says to Jesus, it's so good that I'm here, Jesus. What I'd like to do is I'd like to make a tent for you, Moses, and Elijah. While he's still talking, please hear what I'm saying. Peter says to Jesus, we need to commemorate you, but we also need to commemorate all the prophets and all the laws. Let me tell you what God's answer was to Peter's idea. God's answer to Peter's thought that with Jesus here, all the rules are still relevant. All the predictions are still relevant. Oh, it's Jesus plus the rules. It's Jesus plus the law. It's Jesus plus the prophets. It's Jesus plus principles. It's Jesus plus morals. It's Jesus plus self-righteousness. It's Jesus plus self-effort. Peter says, I'm going to build you all tents because Moses is so important and Elijah is so important and Jesus, you're so important. In that moment, God from heaven couldn't give a clear answer to us today. The Bible says that a cloud moved over all the guys. And they couldn't see a thing. And they kind of got unsettled and fearful. And a voice boomed out of the cloud. This is my chosen son. Listen to him. Do you hear the message? The message is Elijah is not my chosen one. Moses is not my chosen one. They cannot save you. The law cannot save you. The principles cannot save you. The prophets cannot save you. The predictions cannot save you. Your morals cannot save you. Your deeds cannot save you. Your education cannot save you. Your social status cannot save you. Your home cannot save you. Your checkings and savings cannot save you. Your job cannot save you. There is only one who can save you. We will build no memorials to anything else. For nothing else can save, not Moses, Elijah, or anything else, only Jesus. And the Bible says the cloud lifted, and when Peter and the guys lifted up their eyes, Peter, James, and John, only Jesus was there. And may that statement ring through the corridors of our church. Only Jesus can save. Only Jesus can keep you from a normal human plight, which is what? Work, 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 do, try, get, and yet what? I'm empty. I'm hollow. What's this all for? What's the purpose? What are we here for? Solomon said thousands of years ago, it's all vanity. And he had all the money and all the glory and all the girls, and he said it's all empty, meaningless, and vain. Isn't it, Solomon? Until Jesus. And what changed it all? Do you know what Jesus was doing on that cross as he hung between two thieves? He was fulfilling all the requirements, all the rules that Moses had received. He was fulfilling all the predictions and prophecies that Elijah had received. He was the point. He was the fulfiller. He was the only one who could do for us on that cross what we could not do for ourselves. And he became sin. He became your shame. He became your pain. He became your grief. He became your lust. He became your lying. He became your manipulation. He became all of the things that wreak havoc to us here as human beings on the planet. And Paul says, I've been crucified with Christ. In other words, that's my cross. That's my cross. So as we end, I want us to go back. Will you go back with me just for a moment? Use your God-given imagination just for a moment. Let's go back to the hill. Let's remember again. What are you facing on this late Wednesday night? What's got your knees shaking? What's got your heart restless? What's got you feeling hollow? What's got you feeling empty? What's got you feeling stressed out and worried? Is it the job that's not going to be there when this is all said and done? Is it the fracture in your marriage? Is it the breakdown with your kids? Is it the lack of supply and provision and money and finances and food? What is your rent due and you don't know how to pay it? What's got you? So what's our answer going to be? My brothers and sisters, it is not my job to be your success coach. I have not been put in this position as the lead storyteller of Church Home to tell you how to get more income. There are other guys and gals out there that are supposed to do that. I'm supposed to be a proclaimer of the story that is happening to us, in us, and all around us. It's called the story of God. And he has revealed himself fully in the person of Jesus. and he changed life as we know it. That's my cross. When Jesus hung on the cross for 6 hours, he said 7 different statements. Upon one of the 7 statements, when he said, "It is finished," the Bible says the ground began to shake. The veil in the temple tore in two. The lights were turned off on the planet. Things became dark as midnight, and the earth began to rattle and shake because the architect, the designer, the maker of heaven and earth gave his life for the centerpiece of his creation, which is mankind. This is bigger than your career. This is bigger than your job. This is bigger than clothes and stuff and things and our social media. This is bigger. It's the point of it all. It's the cross. That's my cross. That's my cross. You see that? You see that man right there? That's my cross. That's my cross. Paul wasn't there, but he said he was crucified with Christ. So if Paul can say that, I can say that. Paul, you weren't even there, but I can go there with my faith. I can go there. I can go to that hill and say, that's my cross. That's my cross. Jesus says, let go of all the things you think make you better or right with me, because they don't. Deny yourself. Rest from your self-righteous efforts. Let go. And embrace my cross as your own. When's the last time you practiced that act of worship? Embrace the cross of Jesus as your own. You see that man on the middle cross? That's my cross. Why aren't you on that cross? He got on it for me. Does he know you? Oh, he knows me. He knows me by name. Why is he on that cross? For me. I put him on that cross. That's my cross. That's my cross. Jesus didn't deserve a cross. The cross of Jesus was never his cross. Did you know that? It was never his cross. Categorically not his cross. It was your cross. It was my cross. That's my cross. So now we're supposed to journey through this thing called life. Every day when we're tempted to be self-sufficient and self-providing and selfish and self-focused, we come again to the wonderful life-altering teachings of God, who says, let go. Let go. And embrace again my cross as your own. I end with this, I promise, I'm done. Do you know many of the disciples in church history, not in scripture, but if you do your research, do you know many, if not most, were crucified? You may not know that. Do you know how many of them were? Upside down. You know why? Church history records that many of them requested that they be crucified upside down because to honor the one who already took their place, because that was their cross. This is an honor. What kind of understanding of Jesus, his crucifixion and resurrection, did these young Jewish men have for when their time came for torture and death? They said, I cannot be crucified the same way. I'd like to honor the one who already took my cross. You can crucify me upside down. Kind of understanding of Jesus is that. That's your cross. That's your cross. And I want you to tell every crippling emotion and ounce of shame and guilt and fear and worry and anxiety, that's my cross. I'm not who my emotions tell me. I'm not who my actions tell me I am. You know who I am? I'm the guy who is so loved that that's my cross. What do you mean? I'm supposed to be up there. But he took my place. That's my cross. And so, the Bible gives us news. And this news says this: when you're crucified with Christ, your sin has been crucified. Your shame has been crucified. Your weakness crucified. Your proclivities towards sin, error, wrong, selfishness, crucified. That's my cross. That's my cross. That could change everything for you and for me. So here's what I'm gonna do. Tomorrow's gonna be a great day. Tonight's gonna be a great night. But I'm gonna find some time in the next several days, and I'm just gonna say it. To everything that seems to want to make me feel hollow, empty, restless, anxious, fearful, frustrated, competitive, comparing, I am going to say to my soul, that right there, that's my cross. It is no longer I who live, but Christ in me. This is the reality of each and every one of us who simply believe and receive that Jesus is who he declared himself to be, God of heaven and earth, who hung on a tree and rose again on the third day. Jesus, we thank you so much for who you are. It's like overwhelming to try to like even understand it all or accept it all. But I know you'll help us. You are beautiful and you are wonderful and you are beyond compare and no doubt beyond description. Thank you that I can say without a doubt, an ounce of doubt in my heart, that's my cross. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. If you're here today, watching wherever you are in the world, and you would like to say today, that's my cross. That's God. That's my Messiah. That's my Savior. And I can be forgiven because of what he done, because of what he has done. If you would like to say that, believe that, receive that, on the count of 3, wherever you are in the world, I'm going to ask you to lift up your hand. You know who you are. 1, 2, 3. Just slip up your hand. I know it might seem awkward. You're at a park bench with a mask on, watching on your phone, but there goes your hand. That reminds you this is real. Say this with me right now. Even if you're at that park bench, got that mask on, say this with me. Jesus, I receive. I receive. I receive your forgiveness. I receive that you hung on that cross in my place. That's my cross. And I'm forgiven forever. And I'm right with you. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. God, I pray for Church Home today. Certainly not for our buildings, not for apps. Pray for people. The people that make Church Home who she is. I pray for the people. God, crippling emotions are trying to crawl into our homes all over the world. But I thank you, Jesus, you have already made provision. We can let go of self-effort, self-righteousness, embrace your cross as our cross, and go in your direction. It is our honor and it is our privilege. Thank you, Jesus. Amen. Hey everybody, thank you so much for watching our YouTube channel. To be honest, it really means a lot. It's kind of overwhelming to consider that you take time out of your life to listen to us tell the story of Jesus. If you haven't already, you can subscribe right here to the channel and get more of God's incredible love for you and his story of grace. Again, I can't say it enough. Thank you so much for watching, and hopefully we can do this again real soon.